Good morning. It certainly makes a difference from the from the sunset, or shall we say the sunrise, shall we say, of Monaco. Very, very different indeed. Yeah. Like I say, I certainly didn't need my my big coat, as we say in Yorkshire. Didn't need my big coat and me hat. Oop, Cavalan, good morning to you. But yes, here we are once again, back in old Blighty, as we say, in Yorkshire, the very heart of the UK. Dave W, good morning to you. And yes, good morning to you, Helen, as well. Oh dear. And I'm picked up a cough. So if I do have a bit of a cough and splutter, please do excuse me. Chatty Rat, good morning to you as well. But yes, good morning to you, one and all. And welcome to the Good Morning Walk. Like I say, I hope you enjoyed our, shall we say, brief sojourn over to Europe. Catholic, good morning to you. Horton, good morning from Liverpool. Patrick Lane, good morning to you from Dublin. Good morning to you. Michael Boo, good morning to you as well. Like I say, please do remember to hit that like and the share button as well. Like I say, it helps get more people in, as they say. And like I say, the more people, the better. But yes, it's good morning to you all, and fantastic once again, as always, to see you all. Hang on, there we go. Just get through here. There we go. Oh, Joe Hay, good morning to you. Yep, Cathonic, good morning to you as well. Oh, no, 30 pence Lee. Cathalo G, good morning to you as well. Nope. Gallo, good morning to you. Good morning from Copenhagen. Jonathan Mitch, where's the beach? Yeah. Maybe not today. Certainly not going to be near the beach today. We're a bit far from Scarborough, as they say. But no, it's less muddy than I'd hoped for. That's good. Have I missed anyone out? Cathode G, Peter, good morning to you as well. There we go. But yes, good morning. Whoops, a daisy. To you, one and all. And let's get right off to probably what is going to be, I think now, the single biggest issue and problem for the Conservative Party. And that is, of course, now you've got 30 pence Lee. I'm a bit late over the clock's changed. I'm just a bit late today. Chthonic. But yes, please do remember to, again, ring the bell as well, so you get notifications of when we go live as well. That should help notify people in the future. But yes, let's crack on with this. So, what's been sort of going on, shall we? Well, how many of you know who Lee Anderson is? I probably suspect that a lot of you may have suddenly come to know about this person, potentially in the sort of last 24 hours or so. Might be the case. But here is a man who, up until really a few weeks ago, in fact, no, a few months ago, was relatively an unknown. he had been this, on the backbenchers, being one of the many, shall we say, silent Tories, certainly jostling for position. And then, of course, down came Boris Johnson's government, and for somehow he managed to get in front of a microphone. Certainly to the Tory party's, I think, forever chagrin, because this is a guy who has attracted, very much like Boris Johnson, scandal after scandal. He practically opens his mouth and he says something incredibly dumb. I mean, this is a guy who got his friend to pretend that he didn't know him in front of a journalist. And of course, that all came out not to be true, and apparently highly embarrassing for him. Oh, Tom, good morning to you. Early or late? Well, you're early. We've started late today, so welcome, come on in, pull up a chair and sit on down. So, you have a guy who is absolutely, if you put a microphone in front of him, he will just spew absolute nonsense for days. This isn't a guy who really you want to be front and centre of, certainly, your party, or, as we're about to see, any campaign you might be running as a party. This is sheer lunacy that the Tory party has done, but it also speaks to their sheer desperation. Because unfortunately, as we've said before, and one of the big reasons why I read Conservative Home is because it has a very, very deep and wide reach into the non-parliamentary Conservative Party. It has almost shall we say, finger on the pulse of what those people are thinking. Oh, good morning, Loki's children. Oh yes, we'll be talking about that in a moment as well. So, why did he get this position? Know thy enemy, exactly, Chthonic, exactly. So why did this guy, who the second he opens his mouth, is likely to say something stupid? Oh, good morning, David. Because it didn't take him long. In fact, I think it was like 24 hours after he'd been appointed, deputy chairman of the Conservative Party, he comes out and says, I want the death penalty back because criminals who have been executed don't commit crimes. I think in so much so. It may not be the exact quote, but those were, shall we say, roughly what he said. And you're like, yes, Lee. Yes, Lee. Lots of people don't go on to commit crimes after they're dead, because they're dead. That's sort of the point. So he went on and did something so stupid. And once again, he's gone and shown that this whole death penalty argument really is doesn't make any sense, really, especially in this modern day and age. Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly, Helen. This is where it gets so bizarre. So you've got this guy, massive scandal magnet, massive idiot. why on earth would you put him as deputy chairman of the Conservative Party, whose role is responsible, and I want to point that out, his role is responsible, well, you can see the camouflage pony in the background. But his entire role is to essentially prepare the Tory party for campaigns. Oh, Colin Thompson, greetings from New York. Greetings to you. Yep, cameo pony. So his entire reason, his entire job is to practically be the face of the Conservative Party. And especially at the upcoming local campaigns, like the May elections, you know, ultimately it is him who is going to pretty much be representing. I mean, he's not the only one. It's, who got the actual position now? I've just completely blanked. Who got the actual position? Yeah, Tom, perhaps a future scapegoat for future failures. Oh, potentially. Potentially. Pretty Bird, greetings to you. Greg Hands, that's it. So Greg Hands is the actual sort of full-on chairman, and then obviously Lee's his deputy. And now you have to ask the question, why has such a, you know, complete and utter lunatic been given such a incredibly important position within the party? Well, I'll tell you why. As I said a few moments ago, this is why I've been reading Conservative Home, because it has a very, very influential point in the non-parliamentary Conservative Party. This is where a lot of Conservative MPs, think tanks, like to put their think pieces, their bits for, you know, trying to raise up their profile. So, if you've, like me, been, well, weird enough to read this bizarre yet funny blog at times, they do, shall we say, polls of who do they think is the most popular backbench Conservative. And just like Liz Truss, and you may remember we used those polls to very much predict who would be eventually, shall we say, Boris Johnson's replacement, but also who would be the potential challenger within the party, and of course what their chances would be in a leadership contest. You know, Conservative Home really got it right on the money. They always said it would be a contest between, you know, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss, and in the final two, Liz Truss would win. So it is very likely the only reason that Lee Anderson has been given such a massively important position is because he is topping these polls. And now you know why I read Conservative Home. Because unfortunately, they have a lot of insights which are very worrying about the future direction of the Conservative Party. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Cavalands. Yeah. Greg, you'll never guess who's going to be your new deputy. Gee. I would pay so much to be like a fly on the wall in that situation, just to see Greg Hand's face when he was told that Lee Anderson was going to be his deputy. Oh, I bet he had a wonderful expression on his face. Oh, Christina Mary, good morning to you. So, this is just reeks of the sheer desperation. Up till the coda, thank you very much. Will Truss and Boris resolve in a GE this spring? Well, this is where it could all be leading to be honest, Tilly. This is where it could all be going. I mean, you've got these May local elections, which are going to be a massive indicator of how, shall we say, the popularity of the Conservative Party is going. And to be honest, it's not good. It is not good at all. When Nadine Dorries herself quits and says, yeah, look, the chances of the Conservative winning at the next general election are terminal, then yeah, things are not good. But their poll numbers just generally aren't good. They are just not good at all. Full stop. So this really goes on some crazy journeys where we've seen recently from the Telegraph, or the Tory graph, of all places, saying that it's very likely, if a snap general election was held, that the Tories would be Westminster's third party. I mean, depending on how the May local elections go, the worse it is for them, and to be honest, it has a very, very big chance of going very horribly wrong for them. We'll get to why in a moment. Then that is when certainly Boris, Truss, all these different factions will start to push. Oh, Larry the Cat's joined us again this morning today. Good morning to you. And IP, question mark, IP, good morning to you as well. So, it really does indicate that there is trouble over the head. There is, going to be an awful ruckus after those May local elections. And I think, Tilly, you said, would Liz and Boris come together, potentially in a general election? Hang on, which is good you say. Yeah, will Truss and Boris resolve in a GE this spring? You see, I don't know. Because Boris is now sort of, changing his tune on what he said. He's started to openly criticise Sunak a bit more. Truss, surprisingly, normally, the former, shall we say, ministers do tend to sneak away. But they really haven't. And a lot of people are concerned that Truss is going to cause a lot of trouble. Even if her criticisms of Tory policy aren't openly criticising Sunak, a lot of Conservative MPs are worried this is eventually going to cause trouble. And of course, one thing I've always said is that people don't vote for divided parties. And this brings us to the recent by-election that's happened in Lancaster. Not Lancaster, Lancashire, sorry. Let me get it right. let me put on. Oh, just ladies and gentlemen, we are entering a bit of buffering. You know why? Good morning to you. So, what happened with these absolutely terrifying for the elections under Boris did not go well. Like, these elections did not go well at all. Why did they not go well? Well, it was partly because Conservative voters who normally are quite active when it comes to voting, they will turn out to vote, did not turn out to vote. So those May local elections, you had a lot of people saying, oh, well, I'm not going to vote for Boris Johnson. I'm choosing not to turn out to voice my displeasure, at Boris Johnson. And I think the hope was, at least in the party, that, now Boris had gone, that would change. But the Lancashire by-election showed that the Tories dropped by 10%, or at least 10 points, shall we say. And you're like, well, hold on, where did that 10% go? Because there's only really two options that could have happened. First of all, that 10% changed their vote. It's entirely possible they could have gone and voted for different parties, but we don't see certainly any big significant swings for any of these other parties. So that doesn't look like that's what's happened. As we saw in Cheshire and Amersham, the by-election there, we saw, the Conservative vote shrink, but the Lib Dem vote grow in response. So that was a very clear indication that those Tory voters had gone and voted for a different party. But in the North Lancashire by-elections, there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing to indicate that missing 10 points that those missing points had gone to another party. Essentially, once again, and what should be quite worrying, certainly in the Tory HQ, is that these voters didn't turn up. Oh, good morning, Jamie. Good morning to you. Nipton. Well, good morning to you. Yep, Naomi, I do agree, general election now, but we just need the Tory party to absolutely fall apart first. And yeah, exactly, Larry, they were doing their hair that day. They're doing that hair. Dabakura, you woken up? Well, welcome. Like I say, do remember to hit that like button on your way in. And like I say, pull up a pillow and join in. Like I say, we've just talked about why 30 pence Lee Anderson probably got the position he did. It was because of, well, he has bizarrely a very big popularity polling from Conservative Home, which in the past has led to some interesting predictions, to say the least. Will potentially, shall we say, 30 pence Lee ever make it to a proper full-fledged cabinet position? Well, that's anyone's guess. That really is anyone's guess at this moment in time. And then, of course, we've been talking about these by-election results that happened in North Lancashire, and the fact that those results do not bode well, shall we say, for the Tory planners in the Conservative HQ, because this is continuing a trend of Conservative voters not turning out to vote, which for any party, if you've got significant portions of your electorate not turning out to vote, well, that's a pretty big thing. That can cause a lot of problems, especially for general elections. So one of the things we've got to look at the next general election, and certainly, I've said before, these May local elections, they don't tend to have a very big turnout, unfortunately. Local elections tend to have a turnout of about 20 to 25%, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. And this is why I've said, you can get elected almost as a local councillor with 500 votes, because that's just how low the turnout is in these places. So if this turnout potentially could be lower, and we see, shall we say, the Tory numbers fall significantly from the last general election, then we see that there is a pattern that has now fully emerged, that Conservative voters are not going out to vote for their party. And that, oh boy, that is going to be disastrous. That is going to be absolutely disastrous for the Tories if that comes to pass at a general election. One indeed. Anyway, hang on, Pakura. A different bias thought Lee Anderson got the position because he's a walking dead cat, which is useful for the Conservatives. No. This is it. He's not useful. The idea that you put this guy in, who's such a idiot, into what is a very, very important position as a dead cat, absolutely not. The only reason he got it was because he is popular amongst the non-Conservative Party voters. He's been put in there because, as we've been saying just now, there is a trend starting to emerge that Conservative voters are not turning out to vote. He has been put in there because their hope is, and quite wrongly, that he can convince those Conservative voters who have stayed home in the last May elections, and potentially thinking about doing so in this May elections, that he can convince them to turn out to vote. That is why he's been put there. And as a dead cat, why? This doesn't help the Conservatives, even if he does say, as we've seen, something really stupid happen with the with the death penalty comments recently. That doesn't help them in polls. At this point, putting Lee Anderson there, the only reason it makes sense is that you want to try and reverse the turnout, the decreasing turnout for the Conservative Party. That is the only reason he is there. Well, how is he popular? Exactly. This is it. This is why I keep on saying Conservative home and why I've been reading it, because they have huge influence on the non-parliamentary Conservative Party. And if you look back over, you know, who's your favourite backbencher, well, if you look back at the past 4 or 5, it's been Lee Anderson, it's been 30 Pence Lee. So if you've got a party that is constantly looking at these very bad poll numbers, you've got the fact that Conservative turnout is falling like a stone. And your only option is to try and put someone in who is the front of the Conservative Party, who is popular in the non-Conservative Party, to try and encourage them to get out to vote. That is why he is there. It is not to act as a dead cat. It is an attempt to try and reverse falling Tory poll numbers. That's why he's there. You know, and like I say, at the moment, the dead cat strategy, well, that didn't exactly work for Boris Johnson when he was there and all the stuff that he was doing. If anything, it brought more attention to the fact, you know, he was such a complete and utter screw up. You know? It didn't exactly help his, so we say, his own popularity in that case. So that's why he's there. So sort of, I disagree with sort of Phil's assessment on that. He's not there as a dead cat. He's there to desperately try and reverse the absolute dire situation that the Conservatives could find themselves in at the next May elections. Oh yeah, Dobby. I haven't actually seen Nadine Dorris's show yet. I knew it was on. I knew it was on last night, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. But yeah, I've seen some clips floating around online, and yeah, oh, it's definitely going to be worth a watch. Definitely going to be worth a watch. But I'm surprised, as we said before, I wouldn't be surprised if Boris Johnson ends up on with his own, you know, Boris cast or the Johnson, you know, the Johnson report, like we see, because even he has started to try and sort of throw those sort of accusations around on that. Oh, Craban, good morning to you. Oops, a daisy. Oop, there we go. No notification again. Oh no. But yeah, the Tories are getting desperate, and I think putting Lee Anderson in that position shows how desperate they are. And bear in mind, him being put to that position, from what we can tell, was not popular. It was not a popular move, because Penny Mordaunt, not long after that had been announced, she actually stood up and made fun of him in Parliament. And remember, Penny Mordaunt is the head of the Conservative and Unionist faction, a very, very powerful and influential faction in the Conservative Party. So when even they are like, yeah, why have you put this guy in charge? What are you doing? You know, it's it doesn't look good. Oh dear. There we go. First past the post keeps reform out. Well, like I say, I think I've said before, you know, Barnsley or Barnsley Central came very, very close. They came second. Dan Jarvis had only had a majority of about 2,000, which, while was sort of comfortable, it's not completely comfortable. And I certainly wouldn't be surprised to see Reform targeting this seat in the future. So certainly a general election time, we will be covering the nonsense and the guff that Reform UK is probably pumping out in my constituency. So that's something to look forward to, I suppose. So it's absolute turmoil. That's the best way to describe it. I mean, when you've got all this, stuff going on, it's going to be so strange. What, Bakura? Your mum watches GB News / Talk TV almost 24/7. Never seen so much coverage on trans people anywhere else. Not to mention, obviously, hate speech and the one-time sexual assault apologising. Yeah, they're trying to sort of replicate the culture wars. And, you know, here's the thing. To be honest, we can see that the culture wars have failed, really, to actually gain a purchase on here. And certainly going forward, if you saw recently, Kimmy Badenoch was on Sky News being interviewed about her signing this memorandum of understanding, but she's trying to sort of pull it off as if she's signed this, you know, amazing trade deal. Yeah, no, it's not going to be like that at all. This, you know, a memorandum of understanding is nowhere near sort of what a trade deal actually is. But she got ripped to pieces by this Sky News reporter who was just looking at her like completely like, what do you mean? The figures say the exact opposite. And then she goes, well, it depends what figures you're looking at. And you're like, but the figures I'm looking at saying, you know, exports to Italy are down. You're like, what? What? And I think when you've got all these you know, very clear figures, they're not going to be able to, you know, keep it out for long. I mean, the excuse is now is, oh, I'm taking a long-term view. I'm not bothered about, you know, the past 3 years. I'm you know, focusing on the future, which is a fantastic excuse to say at the end of the year, oh, trade's still down. Oh, don't worry, I'm just focused on the future. Yeah, I don't accept the premise of the question. That's very true. But remember, Kimmy Badenoch is meant to be like one of the rising stars of, you know, of the Conservative Party. But here she is you know, now not only minister in charge of trade, but business. And trust me, businesses are going to let her have it very, very soon, especially all those conservative backing businesses, because they are not having a good time with all this Brexit red tape that's hindering their ability to do business. So that's not good. How are we going to get across this? Right. Step, step, step. There we go. There we go. Hey, we're across. Yeah, Mithril, exactly. You can't just keep ignoring, you know, figures. It's so ridiculous to think that they can just keep on getting away with just ignoring them, because you're just like, well, sorry, but here are the numbers. And you just turn around and just say, well, I don't believe those figures, when these figures are from your government. You know, it is from your government department that is responsible for keeping track of these numbers. Yeah, you can ignore the falling anvil, but it's still going to hit you, exactly. Oh yeah, that was another story that's I heard today before I set off. What is it? The big group of chartered accountants, I can't remember the full name now, but they're going after the government for not having enough HMRC staff on for helping all this. Oh yes, the stuff that happened in Merseyside last night, yes. Yeah, it looks like there's been a bit of a ruckus, shall we say, just for, well, you know, YouTube. Looks like some people decided to, shall we say, get a bit violent at one of these hotels that is housing immigrants, and yet again it's one of these things of, oh yes, we don't, you know, the government doesn't encourage this, but, you know, they're not going to do anything to stop it either. So yeah, it's very worrying, to be honest. Hopefully this doesn't become a trend. Hopefully this is just a one-off. But it's, you know, there comes a point where the fault is, this is of the government. They're the ones who have been encouraging this, you know, rhetoric, this speech. You know, you had, as we talked about, something else that didn't get reported about. You may remember Priti Patel, when she went after the, quote, lefty lawyers. A couple of days later, there was a immigration law office, you know, a private practice for, you know, immigration law, got attacked because of that rhetoric. So we know where the rhetoric's coming from. We know who they have to sort of, you know, condemn. And I think it really does sort of go to sort of the opposition to start going after and start condemning the government for doing this and saying this language. But they also have to start coming out, I think, and having open, honest conversations about immigration. You know, immigration is beneficial to the UK. this also speaks to the decades-long Conservative inability to build things like houses, infrastructure. Most of the things that people associate with immigration, never really down to immigration. It's very often, and has been the failure of Conservative policy. It's, I can't get whatever, a council house. Well, Conservative government hasn't been really, shall we say, forthcoming about building social housing over the last couple of years. Yeah, Labour could define the safe. Yeah, this is it. They should set up these routes, and it would end, not completely, but it would significantly reduce these numbers on this. Oh dear. Is he saying that is now a trend? Well, this is the first time I've heard of it being violent, which is the trend we don't want to happen. Sorry, I don't have anything for you, boy. There you go. Anyway, nice bit of no reaction for you. Might finish your question about how tactical voting becomes. Well, I think if you're getting to the point, as we said earlier, where you're getting, the significance of you're getting the voters not turning out, and we've seen that in the polls. We've seen that in the polls of them not turn out. Then tactical voting does become even more important. Because imagine this for a second, that if it is true, and let's say take North Lancashire, it's doubtful that it's going to be like this across the country, and of course it's going to be a general election. So will this trend continue into a general election? Will Conservative voters actually turn up at a general election? We don't know. But if it is to be the case that these 10%, let's say across all constituencies of Conservative voters, just don't turn up, then tactical voting, I think, becomes even more important, because you can massively boost up some of these seats, especially if there's going to be that take place. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how that sort of works out on that sort of front. So yeah, tactical voting absolutely going to be critically important. So this is just rewinding. So here we are at the end, as always. Thank you very much for everyone for joining me today. Hang on. Just ta-da! There you go. So you get certainly some interesting things going forward on this. It's, Conservative voters are not turning out. You've got potentially the sheer desperation of the Conservative Party reaching to someone like 30p Lee to try and essentially get that 10% to turn out. It's quite a worrying, probably, trend at the Conservative HQ. An to be a fly on the wall during some of those conversations that could be happening or have happened this week in Conservative Party HQ. Like I say, as always, this is why I read Conservative Home, because very often that's where those think pieces go. That's where the worrying comes in. So, as always, guys, have an absolute fantastic weekend. Hope you go and enjoy yourselves, as always. If you can't be safe, be sensible at least. And of course, have an absolutely fantastic weekend. And of course, please remember to visit the links down below for all the, the Pony Club, the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, all that good stuff down below. Please do remember to leave a comment after as well. That helps with the algorithm. Good point. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.